Good afternoon, everybody. So happy that you chose me over yoga and over whiskey. I'm really looking forward to spend the next 45 minutes with you guys, going on a journey and going into a journey, not just web development, but also a journey of ideas and of possibility. And before we kick off, I want to share a quote with you guys of one of my favorite authors, Sir Terry Pratchett, mostly known from the Discworld series, British English writer. He says, "Never resist a perfect moment. That's the thing about the future. It could turn out to be anything and everything." And this talk is about those perfect moments and the future that's getting more real every single day. A future shaped not just by what we expect, but also by what we dare to imagine and by what we choose to build and how we build it. As a product owner, I always look for the perfect moment in my products. How can I add value to it? How can I add value for my end customer, for my user that benefits from what we build? That's where my journey starts, and that's the journey I want to share with you guys. A couple of months ago, we had one of these perfect moments as they come by. The question that we asked ourselves was, what if we don't need websites anymore? Because web development and development in general is going so fast, so quickly, that it's a very valid question. And that led to the journey that I want to discuss with you today. In the last 40 years, we did an awful lot of development, of web development and technical development in general, of which the 20 last years also with Umbraco. That's all from a technical perspective, but what we've also done in the past 60 years is change the way humans interact with machines. So let's see how we got there. We started out with batch processing, no interaction at all. If you knew what to do, you could feed code to a machine, and then you wait, and then you see the answer that comes out of it. Kind of in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where you ask deep thought, what's the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. They waited for a very long time, and the answer was 42. No idea if you can do anything with it, but that's the answer that the machine gives you. So it's very isolated, very one way. After that, in the 60s, we got the command line interface. Bit more textual, bit more manageable for us, but only for the happy few that knew the incantations, that knew the way to kind of start up this process and to make sure that the answer that came out is kind of related to what you wanted it to be. And you had to be very comfortable with black screens and white blinking cursors and characters. In the 80s, it was a big new step, a revolution. It was the graphical user interface. Instead of typing, I do remember MS-DOS, where you just had to type. We got windows, we got icons, we got menus, we got mice, so that it was much easier to navigate through your computer. So suddenly, computing became much more visual and intuitive. It could be for everyone, as long as you had this machine. Then, the era where I grew up, the 90s and the zeros. This was I'd like to call it the democratization of information. If you had a computer and you had an internet connection, you could find anything. We got web pages, we got news, we got images, we got videos, we got Wikipedia, and all sorts of sources that were at your fingertips as long as you, on your desk, had a machine that gave you access to it. And then, in the zeros, we got apps, we got swipes, we got pinches. Suddenly, the web wasn't just on your desktop. No, it was in your pocket, in the bar, in the bus, wherever you wanted to have access. So it became even more accessible to anyone. You didn't need just to have that machine on your desk, but you could have your phone or whatever mobile device that gives you the opportunity to get this information. And in the 2010s, we started talking to our devices. We got Hey Siri. I'm sorry if anyone's Siri now kicks off. We got Alexa, play jazz. We got Hey Google, all sorts of interaction possibilities with machines. It was sometimes funny, but often very frustrating because it didn't do exactly what you wanted it to do. But it was the beginning of something new, natural language interaction, very vocal, very real. So in the span of 60 years, we took a giant leap. We went from waiting to clicking to tapping, and to asking. So where are we then today? I think we're at the threshold, and we're going to zoom in on that a little bit. Because we are no longer designing for screens based on what you just saw. We're no longer designing for screens. We're designing for intent. We're designing for context. And we're designing for real needs, for users with problems that can be solved in far more intuitive ways than we could think of only a couple of years ago. Because AI is suddenly everywhere, changing the game. It's on our phones. It's in our browsers. It's embedded in our documents. It's writing emails. It's helping you write code. It's transcribing, summarizing meetings. It's enhancing images. If you were to talk with Corné just now, it's giving you product advice. And increasingly, it's acting on our behalf. And that particular bit is huge. Because we're shifting. We're shifting from interfaces to intelligences, to systems that understand what we want and then do it for us. Begs the question, what is an interface? An interface, if you drill it down all the way to the bottom, is a boundary. It's between your intent, you want to reach something, towards that result. It's a form, it's an order flow you have to go through, it's fields you have to fill out, and you have to follow it by the letter, because if you don't, the process just stops. You're done. If you want to buy a train ticket, you have to fill out exactly all the steps, and you have to do it in the right order. Otherwise, any train company will say, I don't know how to help you. I have no clue. But what if that machine understands your intent? So if I say, I need a train from Copenhagen to Odense, and I want to get there at, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the evening, because that's connecting my flights very, very nicely. And then the system says, okay, cool. Here's your ticket. I've done it for you. Then you're doing something new. Then you're doing something that really helps. And then we're talking agents. Because agents don't ask you to learn the system. They learn you. They learn to know you, they learn to understand you, and they know how to apply your rules, your needs into the system and do it on your behalf. They don't ask you to follow steps. They take them for you. Because they know where to go, when to do it, what to fill out, maybe what kind of extra information to ask from you to make sure it's all smooth and smooth sailing for you as a user. But it takes steps on your behalf. And it doesn't wait for input. It anticipates, it advises, and it acts. And it's not science fiction. It's here. And it's the beginning of what's been called the agentic web, where users won't browse websites, but agents will. Where content won't no longer be only read directly, but it will be parsed. It will be evaluated, it will be summarized, and it will be turned into decisions. Interaction is no longer just about the screens, but also about the outcomes. So, as builders in this beautiful Umbraco community, I have to say it's my first time here, and I'm overwhelmed with how friendly everyone is, and I really enjoy being here, so thank you for that. But we have to ask ourselves a question, a very important one. What if our next user isn't a human? What if our next user is an AI acting for a human? Because that's the leap we're making, and that's going to change everything. And to make that a bit more concrete, perhaps, I want to go to a real-life example. Because this was our perfect moment with a customer a couple of months ago, where we again found out that this one sentence is really true. Every invention starts with a question, and it can be a very simple one, as was ours. How can we guide customers towards the perfect lease car, or the perfect car? I'm going to say the name of the Dutch company for one time, and then I'm going to shorten it. It's called Centraal Beheer. For everyone in the Netherlands, you know what I mean. CB, from now on, is a big insurance company in the Netherlands. Apart from having all these insurances, they also have a very small part of the company that provides car lease solutions. So you can lease a car with them, and I guess also have your car insurance with it in one go. They are a very small part of the entire group that is Centraal Beheer, CB. And they struggle with every with the same stuff that every service or sales-oriented company is struggling. Response times, too many questions for for not enough people, and they wanted to fix that. So they came to us, how can we guide these customers? Because it's costing us a lot of time, and it's also leading to a lot of frustration with our customers. So the response times, I said, they also saw that the lead to offers, so that they had the chance to actually get these cars on the road and get them driving, and the customer satisfaction was not at the level they wanted it to be. So we brought a lot of love and effort, and we started digging around. What can we do? What should we do? Also try to predict what we shouldn't do. And we looked around, and they had a website. They still have. And it has information, lots of it. And it has contact options, multiple. You can call them, you can email them, you can do whatever you want. But it lacked something crucial. Context of me as a user. The website knows a lot, but it doesn't know anything about me. So it cannot help me in the way a normal person, a real person or a human being can, because they understand context better than just plain HTML or any other way you show your content. So how do you guide then through these hundreds of vehicle options without knowing any of those needs? In short, conversation. Let's embed, is what we said to the customer, what we discussed together. Let's embed the conversation that your customers have with your service and sales representatives into the website. Let's remove the boundaries. Let's take away the interface. Let's make sure that these people are helped when they want it. They don't have to wait for a reply. They're not being called back when it's the worst possible time. I think we've seen it all. We send an email with an inquiry. It could take a couple of days to get the response back. You don't get the response. There is a phone number in the email, so you try to ring it and ask for clarification. The salesperson says, I'm not entirely sure about that as well. Let me check. I'll come back to you in a couple of days. A couple of days later, you're in a very important meeting. The phone rings. It's the representative. Nothing you can do about it. You cannot pick up the phone. You still don't have your answer. And then some other advertisement comes by where you see the same kind of car that you want from another lease company, and then you say, I'll go with them because they have my answer. And you don't have to hunt, if we do it well, through all these pages for the answer that might not even be there. So that you've spent like 15 minutes browsing a website and you think, no, I'm never going to find this. Even Google couldn't help me. What we try to aim for here is instant clarity. You have a question, you have the question now, you want an answer now. You don't want to wait. You're now in your kind of your buying spree. You're interested. You like that car, or you think you like some options it had, but you want to know just a little more, just to be able to make your decision and be able to make the right choice and have the feeling that you made a very educated decision by choosing this particular car. So we did something radical. We took away the entire interface. We built one single entry point, an AI agent, available 24/7, always online, always with the latest information available. Not a chatbot, most definitely not a chatbot. So we didn't say to this agent, if this is the question, that should be the answer. We left it out in the open for the agent to determine. It's not a glorified FAQ. So we didn't say these are the questions that most of the times are asked. Make sure you have an answer for that one. And for the rest, it's bonus if you manage to come up with an answer. No. And we called her, we gave her a name because we like to personalize stuff. We called her Elise. And we made her understand intent. So that when I need a car to transport my wife, my kids, and our very hairy dog, and have a budget of around 800 euros to spend per month, because that's what my employer gave me, Elise understands where she should go. It would ask for clarity if something was unclear. The screenshot's in Dutch, I'm sorry for that, but what you see happening here is the conversation real people are having on the website of CB, where you can say, okay, I'm looking for what I just said typed in, and then it comes back with some follow-up questions like, what's your mileage? Would you rather drive electric or petrol? Do you have other wishes we should take into account? Because then she can consider those features and the prices that come with it and the needs you might have, and even assess for you which of your needs might have a higher priority, just based on all the information that we had before from other users asking roughly the same questions, just like a real sales representative would do. Then she return your personalized results, like I found a car for you. It's a Ford Mustang in this example, an electric one. Unfortunately, not one of the 60s, 70s, 80s one, because those were really cool. And it prohibits you from aimless clicking, but engages you into a conversation, which makes it much easier for you to follow and to get where you want to be. So consider this for yourself, just as a thought experiment. You're offered a new job. Congratulations. I hope for you it's still in the Umbraco realm. You have a nice payment, and on top of it, they give you a lease car. Where do you start? You know, as I said, you need to decide between electric and petrol. You need to decide between big or compact, because that also influences your budget and your needs. Expensive or economical, or a tow bar. Fun fact, it's a top 3 priority in the Dutch car market for a car to have a tow bar. What we built with Elise is like this personal assistant for you to find this car. Instead of filtering with the drop-downs, you have this conversation, a real conversation, where you can go back and forth and have all sorts of elements that you cannot necessarily find on the website be part of that. That's what we built. She's online 24/7 and always asks and answers questions that matter most to you. And obviously, she runs on Umbraco. We picked the Perplex chat package. Some of you might know it. It's from our Umbraco 8 stack even. We upgraded it all the way to 13 in this particular example, and expanded it so that it supports AI agents. And these agents, we trained them to use CRM data, to use, and we connected, in this example, we're connecting with HubSpot. All others, as long as you have an API or an endpoint, you can feed data into such an agent. We used product information. We used customer information. We used content that was available in Umbraco, obviously, and we used all sorts of tools that are available to feed information, just as you would to a human, but then to an agent. And like any other sales or service representative, Elise needs to be trained. She needs to have the context to be able to give you the answer that you need. So we have to give her information. What's the tone of voice of the company? What's the company she works for anyway? What do they do on a daily basis? The agent needs to know. What's the target group? What do these people like? What do these people hate? How do you warm them up? When do you go a bit more commercial, like do you need an offer? And when are you a bit more careful because you see the user is hesitant and that you might need to ask some extra questions to make sure that they are in the right mood to buy, to be a bit commercial about it. And who is this customer? What triggers them? What's important to them? And it's all data that's readily available for an agent. Because with all the data sources that we can leverage, we can inform our agent about this customer and also about the target group and what are quirks of this particular target group that you might use in a conversation to help this person the best way possible. And on the job, we're also training her. In Umbraco, in the Perplex chat application, you can see all chats. You can grade them. You can read back everything that's happened. You can see if the answer was correct, yes or no. You can see if the tone of voice was there. You can add notes. And at this point, we have decided not to directly feed it to the agent. Because many people have many opinions. And if you have 2 or 3 people that are in charge of reviewing these chats, and person A says, I want the tone of voice to be a little bit more like this, and person B says, no, I need a little bit more than that, like that, then the agent gets confused. So what we do now is collect this data, and together with the customer, we decide, okay, this is valuable input to train the agent. And then we have a little bit of a conversation with her, and then we say, okay, from now on, please take into account this. please take into account that, because we see that's where you're lacking, which is not a problem. You've just only started, but it's important that you take it with you for future conversations. So how does she get all the data? GraphQL has been mentioned today. That's also how what we use to let her find her way to the perfect answer. We let her make links between all the nodes in the graph. A user mentions they drive in the city, they need space for a family, and occasionally they tow a trailer. These are 3 features that are then being looked for in the graph, and as a node, and then we see, okay, how are they linked, and where do they come together in a vehicle? What vehicle has all this? All the nodes that we need at their disposal, and how can we connect it, and how, if need be, can we prioritize between these different nodes. And if you want to change requirements halfway, no biggie. We don't have to start all over, as with your normal chatbot, where you say, oh no, hang on, I've changed my mind. Then you go just back to the front of the flow, and then you step in and you go straight through this interface once again. She'll just find another route. She'll just go, okay, cool. You said petrol when we started, now you say electric. Let's move for electric. I'll change one little part of the route that I've taken. All your other requirements are still clear to me. Let me find you a perfect car. And this feels intelligent. It feels fluid and it feels human. Because under the hood, she's not following a script. She's reasoning and thinking in connections, just like humans do. We're all used to connect the dots and then come to a conclusion. And we've tried to train Elise to do the same. But most importantly, we let her act. She combines the customer responses with automotive data to give real answers. And the customer feedback is very nice on this one. It's been very lost for words. I am. It's been very insightful for the customer to see what the responses were to the conversations their customers had with Elise. The amount of questions are already dropping in their customer service team because they see, I can have a conversation with an agent. She answers the most basic questions that I need. And if I want to take up an offer, then I know where to go. And we guide her via Elise. We guide you to the proper, for the proper forms. But our end goal is that she can make the offer for you and that she can create this order for you and that she just makes sure that your car is there in time. And because we let her act and that she combines all this available data to her, it feels humane, not just helpful. It feels intelligent, not just fast. And it feels transformative, because it changes how people engage with the service. If we stop thinking in menus, then what I've showed you is just the beginning of where we can end up in a few years' time. This is the new web we're building. And this is why the next interface may not look like an interface at all. We realized something very simple, yet profound, perhaps. Navigation is dying. Not entirely, not suddenly, but inevitably. Because if an agent at some point said to you, do you want me to do that for you? And then it works, and then you're satisfied by it. Why would you go back and do it the old way and click around until you find your own way? Not because the website is bad, don't get me wrong, but because an agent handles it for you. No science fiction, it's happening. Which means that we, as designers, developers, marketeers, digital builders, we need to change how we build. How we build websites, but also, I think, how we build Umbraco. Because we can no longer just build for the people sitting in front of the screens. We have to start building for the agents acting on behalf of these persons. Agents don't click or scroll or guess. They need something else. They need clear APIs and machine-readable content. Because they don't guess and don't click buttons, they invoke structured endpoints. They need content that's not just meant to be read by humans, but also understood by machines. So instead of just HTML, you can think about JSON, XML, or GraphQL. Think exposing key data and services in a way agents can query directly. If your site is a restaurant, your API is the waiter. And in this new world, the agent is the customer. So that's one. Secondly, it's the difference basically between a human saying this looks like a price because it has the euro sign in front of it, and an agent knowing it's the price. And that it's valid, and that it's updated, and that it is attached to a specific item. So when your page structure is semantically rich, it unlocks reasoning for these agents. It lets an agent answer which of these options meets my user preferences, not just which option looks good. Mind you, the data doesn't have to be perfect. It really depends on how lenient you are towards your agent. You can set it up very strict, so that there is absolutely no gray area for interpretation, that you can say these are the 3 sources that you're allowed to use. If nothing is there that answers the question, just say, I don't know. Or you can be a bit more gray and you can say there are some online sources that you can also use if the answer isn't available in the documents that we gave you. This really matters in relation to the way you set up your data, obviously. Thirdly, we need predictable workflows. No longer for us, but for the agents, because they thrive on consistency. If you want agents to do more than just observe, if you want them to act, your workflows need to be predictable. That means having clearly defined steps, inputs and outcomes, because agents cannot handle random pop-ups or non-deterministic flows. Not yet, I should say, but at this point, this is something we need to take into account. And because we're moving away from the interfaces that hinder ourselves, and we can give them to the agent, our life gets better for it. And then the ethical one, perhaps, or at least the question is, how do we do it safe? If I get an option to buy concert tickets or a festival or anything, and I have to do a payment, how do I know it's safe? And how do I know that the agent doesn't get all the information about my bank account and how much money is on it and what I've spent? We have to be very secure and very specific in what information is allowed and what part of the agent is allowed or authorized to look at it. We need to have delegated access. It's like of handing your assistant a badge with permissions. Limited, transparent, and revocable. That's the most important one. We can change it anytime we want. We have to support scopes. This agent can submit forms. This agent cannot see billing info. This agent is allowed to do payments. So they are allowed to see your credit card information. But the only thing that they can do with it is send back to the agent that knows the forms, the payment has been made. That's all the information that this particular agent needs. We have to be very careful in not over-sending or over-collecting this information. Especially from an ethical point of view, where you say, is it wise or is it safe to give all this information to a machine? We're now at sort of a ground zero, I think, where we can decide what is safe, yes or no. We have to be very careful about that and not just jump in and see what happens. Because that's how we break the system and how we make sure that everybody's personal data can be found anywhere, and that's absolutely not what we want. But we do want to have an easier way of traversing websites and interfaces. And I think that this is a paradigm shift. We're no longer designing just for clicks. We're designing for collaboration. Not between a user and a user interface, but between a human and an agent. And between an agent and a platform. It's a new kind of web, where the user no longer navigates. Instead, the web comes to them. And it's our job to build it. And this is where the fun starts. Because when you start building for agents, not just humans, everything changes. And because of that, new jobs will pop up. And I asked ChatGPT, what else, what some possible future job names could be that might come towards us in the next years. Agent experience designer, AI interaction architect, and human AI orchestration engineer. Afterwards, when I'm at the bar grabbing my beer, I'd like to invite you, if you find any other fun job names, to just run them by me. I'm very curious what you guys can come up with. The agent experience designer will be working on UX, but then for agents. How does an agent interact with my website? AI interaction architects, that's managing the roads of information. And the human AI orchestration engineer is the choreographer of everything. Just some ideas of things that are changing. And a lot more is changing than that. If you're a marketeer, you have now your normal set of KPIs where you know, oh yeah, returning visitors, engagement with my page, conversion rates, etc. All these metrics will change if an agent goes there. So that's why we need these experience designers and these agent optimization engineers, so that we give them, the marketeers, new KPIs that they can work on and that you can see the success of your platform. And the tools we use to build the web will evolve as well. Umbraco won't just help you publish the content, it will also help you to publish intent. Instead of tagging for SEO, we'll tag for AEO, Agent Experience Optimization. What action does this page enable? What entity does it represent? And what outcome does it deliver? And yes, even Umbraco will have an agent. We tried the first one ourselves. It's called the Perplex AI Content Buddy. It started out as an experiment, but it's grown to something we think will help. It helps you write content that's structured, semantically rich, and machine optimized. It will give you suggestions for all sorts of things. And we started working on the package because we think it's much more fun to work on content than to tedious tasks like SEO data, alt text for images, that sort of stuff. That's how it started out. But then we saw if we bring it into the content making process and the content optimization process, it can also be very interesting. And then we saw if agents are becoming more and more important, this particular agent can also help you optimize for the agents that are out there and that try to comprehend your content. Because our new user isn't just human, it's hybrid. And we're now writing for two audiences. Someone with a limited time and attention, you and me, or an agent scanning for relevance, structure, and actionable insight. Do we need websites? That was the question that was on the title slide, and I haven't touched on it just yet. The answer is yes, we do need websites. But the screen is no longer the only service of it. The intent is the interface. And agents, whether embedded or autonomous, are the new interpreters of the web. So the question is not really, do we need websites? It's, do we need them to be seen or do we need them to be used? Because in 2028, visibility might not matter anymore. Usefulness will. And that's what we're here to build. I think there are two ways this can go. And for a very long time, they will be parallel. The first one is an agent per website. Basically what I just showed you in our case with CB, where we have an agent that knows the website, that knows the target group, and that can answer your questions in this specific situation. It's comfortable for developers and businesses because everyone is still in control. They decide what's being fed to the agent. They decide which way it can go. You can ensure your branding, your voice, and your compliance. Users still visit your websites, or more accurately, their agent might. And you're still hosting a part of that interaction. And you need to design your agent as you would a UI. But now with conversation, action, and autonomy in mind. And when to use, when specialization matters. So if you have a very niche market where nobody else knows about, then this is a very nice way to use an agent. The other one is an overarching agent, your digital companion. Trained on your personal preferences, so it knows you prefer trains over flight. It knows you're a vegetarian. It knows you're allergic to feather pillows. And yes, you really hate uphill walks. So this overarching agent doesn't just act for you or assist, but it orchestrates. When you say plan a trip, it goes from site to site just to find you the information that you need. And it will come up with an answer that really makes sure you don't have to climb any uphill walk. It browses APIs, it scrapes structured data, it sends queries to hotel platforms to see if there's room availability, it reads cancellation policies, and it parses fine print so that you don't have to do it. When to use is when digital life needs to be orchestrated. And as I said, I think both futures are possible, and they will exist side by side. Some websites will maintain embedded agents or will create embedded agents for control and richness, and others will focus on agent-facing interfaces, invisible, API-first, intent-driven. As developers, we have to build for both realities. We'll train and we'll deploy site-native agents that feel conversational, informed and helpful. And we'll expose well-structured data and predictable workflows for these overarching agents to consume. And as marketeers, our game changes completely because we have less control over the common APIs I just mentioned, and we have to learn to get our message across in this new world, where this agent goes from side to side to side. Okay, how do I stand out? I don't have the answer just yet, but that's something we really need to start thinking about because these agents will be there. There's Terry again. We have a chance to rethink everything from the first touch to the final outcome. Because this isn't just a technical shift. I feel totally within me that this is a paradigm shift. From designing for screens to designing for systems and of intelligence. From building pages to building protocols for action. And for optimizing for engagement and to enabling empowerment. Terry Pratchett said it best, never resist a perfect moment. That's the thing about the future. It could turn out to be anything and everything. And this, right now, if you ask me, is our perfect moment. So let's build the web we want to inherit. Let's build with courage. Let's build with creativity. Let's build with care. Let's build with Umbraco. And let's build for 2028. Thank you.